My stepmother laughed and said, "Your sister's kids deserve that cruise, not your brats." Even though I paid for everything. I smiled, canceled it all and ignored their 23 desperate calls. The next day, they begged me to fix it. I was halfway through cleaning up after dinner when my phone buzzed on the counter. Dad. I stared at the screen, debating. The last time I answered one of his calls, it ended with me canceling an entire cruise and detonating a bomb inside our so-called family. Since then, things had been tense, which was fine by me. I let the phone ring. A second later, another buzz. Dad, Lisa, we need to talk. Call me back. I sighed, tossing the towel onto the counter. Here we go. I stepped outside onto the balcony, took a deep breath, and hit call. Dad picked up immediately. Lisa, he said, voice tight. Dad. My tone was flat. A pause. Then, carefully, too carefully, he said, I need you to drop the lawsuit. I smirked. Straight to the point. I'll give you credit for that. This isn't funny, Lisa, he snapped. Rosa doesn't have the money. I leaned against the railing, staring out at the city lights. Then she shouldn't have spent it. You're being unreasonable. I let out a short laugh. I'm being unreasonable? That's funny, because I remember a very different conversation a few weeks ago. One where Rosa decided my kids didn't deserve a trip I paid for and replaced them with Emily's. Dad sighed heavily. Lisa, you have to understand. No, I cut in. You have to understand. She made a choice. And now, she gets to deal with the consequences. She can't pay it back. Not my problem. Dad exhaled sharply, like he was trying to stay calm. Lisa, this is family. I laughed. Family? Funny, I don't remember you saying that when Rosa humiliated my kids. When she told me to my face that Emily's children were more deserving because mine were wild and undisciplined. More silence. I clenched my jaw, my fingers digging into the railing. Do you have any idea how much I was counting on that trip, Dad? My voice dropped, sharp with anger. It wasn't just for the kids. It was for me. Because I don't get vacations. I don't get time off. I run my restaurants. I work 14-hour shifts. I clean floors, I wash dishes, I do payroll. I don't have the luxury of pretending money appears out of thin air, like Rosa does. He was silent, but I wasn't done. My kids haven't been on a vacation in years. Years. And the one time I planned something for them, something special, something they were so excited about, your wife decides they aren't worthy of it. I let out a bitter laugh. And you just sat there and let it happen. Dad finally spoke. Lisa, you're overreacting. My grip tightened. No, I'm not. You know what Rosa said to me? That I was embarrassing. That a real business owner doesn't scrub floors or take orders at the register. That I was playing Cinderella in my own restaurants, acting like a servant instead of an owner. Silence. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. And now, suddenly, you two need my money? Now, I'm not just a maid, I'm your emergency fund. That's not what this is, he muttered. No, I snapped. Then what is it? She can't pay it back, he admitted. Not my problem. Dad exhaled sharply. Lisa, this is family. I let out a slow, cold laugh. Family? Funny, I don't remember you saying that when Rosa decided my kids weren't good enough for the cruise. More silence. Then, when guilt didn't work, he switched tactics. You own part of this business, he said firmly. You benefit from it. That money will come out of the family's finances anyway. So why go through the courts? Just cover it, and we can put this behind us. I blinked. He actually said it. He actually had the audacity to tell me to pay for my own screw-over. I smiled coldly. Let me get this straight. You want me to pay for the trip that I planned, that Rosa ruined, that I canceled, because she didn't want my kids there. Dad's tone hardened. Lisa, don't twist this. Oh, I think I'm seeing things pretty clearly. You're acting like a child. And you're acting like a coward. That shut him up. I took a slow breath, my grip tightening on the railing. I work 14-hour shifts. I scrub floors. I do payroll. I handle suppliers. I run my business. Meanwhile, Rosa spends money like a damn lottery winner, and now I'm supposed to clean it up. You wouldn't even have those restaurants without me, he shot back. I froze. There it was. The real truth. It had never been about Rosa. It had never been about money. It was about control. Dad still thought I owed him. I let out a slow, cold laugh. Wow, you actually believe that, don't you? You're my daughter, he said, his voice clipped. You don't let your family drown. No, Dad. You don't let your family drown. And guess what? I paused. That's exactly what you did to me. His breathing was heavy. Lisa, don't do this. You mean don't let you face the consequences of your own choices? Silence. And then, quietly, bitterly, he said, you'll regret this. I exhaled. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. No, Dad. I smiled. I think, for the first time, I won't. And I hung up. I barely had time to put my phone down before the messages started coming in. Emily, answer the phone. You're making this worse. Stepmother, you're being selfish and cruel. We're family, Lisa. Dad, think about what you're doing. I smirked, tossing my phone onto the couch. They were panicking. Good. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix things. For once, they were the ones suffering the consequences of their own actions. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Next move. I knew they wouldn't give up. Dad would try again. Rosa would beg, scream, cry. Emily would call me selfish. But they weren't ready for the new version of me. The one who finally learned how to say no. I grabbed my phone, opened my bank app, and did something I should have done a long time ago. I separated my accounts, pulled my business funds out of the family shared investments, cut all ties, let them drown on their own. The moment I hit confirm, my phone buzzed again. Incoming call, Dad. I stared at it. Then, with a slow, satisfied smile, I let it ring. I wasn't supposed to be here. That's what my stepmother always said. This isn't what real business owners do. She sneered every time she saw me behind the counter. You should be making decisions, not flipping burgers like some minimum wage worker. I ignored her then, just like I ignored her every time she called me Cinderella for scrubbing the floors of my own restaurants. Honestly, James, she sighed to my father at a family dinner, tilting her wine glass just so. It's embarrassing. Real owners don't mop floors. They don't stand at cash registers. Dad had barely looked up from his plate. Lisa just likes to be hands-on. Like it was a bad habit I'd grow out of. Like it wasn't me keeping this business alive while they burned through money like it was infinite. I learned the business from the inside out. When I was 14, my father handed me a mop and told me to get to work. I scrubbed floors, took orders, managed inventory. By the time I was 20, I wasn't just working in the restaurants, I was running them. I handled payroll, scheduling, vendor contracts. I saw where the money was going, where it was being wasted. And I saw what Rosa was doing. She convinced Dad she was some kind of financial genius. That her investments would expand the family empire. Luxury salons. High-end boutiques. Even a failed attempt at launching a skincare line. None of them made a profit. None of them lasted more than a year. And yet, she kept spending. When I pointed it out, Dad waved me off. Rosa knows what she's doing, he said. You need to stop worrying about things that don't concern you. Didn't concern me? The hell they didn't. Because every time Rosa's projects failed, she dipped into our money to fix them. Money from the restaurants. Money I helped earn. I knew if I stayed under Dad's control, I'd never have a say. So I convinced him to sign over a few locations to me. Just a handful of restaurants, away from Rosa's reach. I told him I wanted independence, that I wanted to prove myself. He agreed, not because he believed in me, but because he assumed I'd fail and come crawling back. He underestimated me. While Rosa was flushing money down the drain, I was making mine grow. I ran my restaurants my way, efficient, lean, focused on quality. I worked alongside my employees, treated them like people, not numbers. And in return, they helped me build something stable, something untouchable. Rosa hated it. You look like one of them, she spat once, when she saw me mopping the floor after a long shift. No one respects a businesswoman who acts like a servant. Emily laughed. You know what she reminds me of? That Disney movie. What was it called? She snapped her fingers. Right, Cinderella. That became my nickname after that. Not affectionately. Not as a joke. A constant, biting insult. Poor Lisa, covered in grease. Poor Lisa, still playing waitress in her own restaurants. Dad never defended me. Never told them to stop. And yet, when everything went to hell, when Rosa drained the family dry, when they needed bailing out, suddenly, I was good enough. Suddenly, I was useful. I thought about all of this as I stared at Dad's last message. Dad, think about what you're doing. If you push this, you'll destroy our family. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. Our family had been destroyed a long time ago. They just didn't realize it yet. I had spent years bending over backward to prove my worth, to show them that I deserved a seat at the table. But the truth was, they were never going to give me one. So I was done waiting. I was reviewing payroll reports when my restaurant manager stormed into the office, face flushed with frustration. You're not gonna like this, she huffed, crossing her arms. Some guy in a suit just walked in, says he's here for a corporate audit. I frowned, setting my laptop aside. Corporate? That's what he said. Claims he's here to check compliance with franchise standards. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. So, that's their move. The restaurants were mine, but they still operated under my father's brand. When I convinced him to sign them over, I thought I was securing my independence. What I hadn't fully accounted for was that the name still belonged to him. And now, he was using it as a weapon. Where is he? I asked, standing up. Lobby. Giving the staff a hard time. I adjusted my blazer and walked out, already bracing for the next fight. A man in a neatly pressed suit stood near the registers, flipping through a clipboard with exaggerated importance. He barely glanced up as I approached. Can I help you? I asked coolly. He spared me a look. Are you the owner? I am. Good. I'm here on behalf of the corporate office, he said, as if that meant anything to me. Routine audit. We need access to your financial records, supply chain data, and employee performance reports. I smiled tightly. You mean my confidential financial records? The ones corporate has no legal right to see. He hesitated. As a franchisee, you're required to comply with brand standards. We're simply verifying. You're verifying nothing, I interrupted. Because this isn't a financial audit. This is a stunt. He straightened his posture, clearly not expecting resistance. If your operations are compliant, you shouldn't have an issue cooperating. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. Let's cut the act. You were sent here by my father, and we both know it. So let me save you some time. My paperwork is in order, my suppliers are vetted, and every health and safety regulation is met. There is nothing for you to find. His lips pressed into a thin line. Refusing an audit can have consequences. I let out a short laugh. Threatening a business owner without legal grounds can have consequences too. Would you like my lawyer's number? Silence. Then, after an awkward pause, he muttered, I'll be reporting this to corporate. You do that. I watched as he turned on his heel and left, the weight of failure heavy on his shoulders. The second he was out the door, my manager whistled low. You sent him packing. I exhaled, shaking off the tension. This was just the first shot. Because I knew Rosa. And I knew my father. They weren't done. They were just getting started. The attack. By the next morning, it was clear they were escalating. A wave of bad reviews hit my restaurants overnight, fake complaints about cleanliness, rude staff, even accusations of food poisoning. A local food blogger, one I knew had ties to Rosa, suddenly posted a scathing article about how my locations had fallen in quality. And then came the legal threats. An official letter from corporate arrived, outlining a potential breach of franchise agreement due to failure to cooperate with a compliance audit. I read the letter twice, then laughed. Oh, they're really trying, I muttered, tossing it onto my desk. They wanted to scare me into backing down. They wanted me to beg. Instead, I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. It's time, I said simply. Time for what? To remind them that I don't need their name to win. Rosa always believed she was untouchable. That she could spend whatever she wanted, manipulate whoever she wanted, and no one would ever stop her. She thought my father would always defend her, that I would always give in. But this time, she had made a mistake. And it became clear the moment she received a court summons, a lawsuit demanding the return of the $12,000 she stole from me. The reaction was immediate. First, the frantic calls. Then, the raging texts. Are you seriously taking this to court? Over nothing? This is embarrassing, Lisa. You're humiliating the family. Fix this now. I ignored every single one. Then came Emily, always trying to play mediator. Mom is losing her mind. Dad's furious. Are you really doing this? Lisa, come on. It's $12K. You're blowing this out of proportion. That one made me laugh. $12,000. Pocket change, according to them. But if it was so insignificant, why couldn't Rosa pay it back? Because there was nothing left. She had spent everything. And soon, the entire world was going to find out just how bad things really were. The courtroom showdown wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even long. Rosa arrived with my father by her side, looking as put together as ever, perfect hair, expensive jewelry, designer handbag. A woman who wanted to look rich, even when she was drowning. Her lawyer tried to argue that the money wasn't stolen, that it had been reallocated for a family matter. My lawyer responded with one simple question. If it was for a family matter, then why was Lisa never informed? Silence. The judge ruled in my favor. Rosa had 30 days to pay me back or face additional legal consequences. Simple. Clean. Devastating. Because now? People were talking. The restaurant staff whispered. Investors asked questions. The illusion of wealth Rosa had spent years maintaining was cracking open for everyone to see. And then came the final blow. 2 days after the hearing, my phone rang. Dad. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. The moment I picked up, I heard it, panic. Lisa. His voice was strained. We need to talk. I said nothing. He exhaled shakily. It's about the money. I smirked. Let me guess. Rosa doesn't have it. Silence. A long, heavy silence. And then, barely above a whisper, the money is gone. I straightened. Excuse me? Dad's voice was hollow. Everything. It's all gone. A slow, satisfied smile spread across my face. Because finally, he understood. Tell me, Dad, I said. When did you realize she ruined you? He didn't respond. So I twisted the knife deeper. Was it when you checked the accounts and saw the overdraft fees? I asked. Was it when the creditors started calling? Or was it when you realized that the $12,000 you called nothing was actually all you had left? His breathing was unsteady. Lisa, please no, I cut him off. Don't, Lisa, please me. You chose her. You let her control everything. You let her ruin everything. He inhaled sharply. I don't know how to fix this. That's not my problem, I said coldly. A long silence stretched between us. And then, finally, his voice cracked. She's leaving. I blinked. What? She's leaving me, he admitted, sounding like he could barely believe it himself. Now that the money is gone, she's packing her things. I closed my eyes and let that sink in. The woman he had defended. The woman he had chosen over me time and time again. The woman who had used him up, drained him dry, and now, finally, when there was nothing left to take, she was walking away. I let out a quiet laugh. Well, I guess now you know how it feels. He flinched. I could hear it through the phone. Lisa, he whispered. What do I do? I tilted my head, thinking. And then, slowly, deliberately, I said, you deal with the consequences of your choices. And I hung up. I used to think that no matter how much my family used me, no matter how many times they took advantage of my generosity, I would always be tethered to them. That blood meant something. That loyalty mattered. But standing in my office, staring at the dozens of missed calls from my father, I felt nothing. No guilt. No obligation. Just the cold, sharp clarity of someone who had finally stopped trying to save people who didn't deserve saving. Rosa was gone. She had packed her designer bags, booked a first-class ticket, and disappeared the moment the money ran out. No apologies. No explanations. Just gone. And my father? He was finally alone. The empire he thought was invincible was crumbling. Suppliers were pulling contracts. Investors were backing out. Franchise locations were underperforming because, as it turned out, Rosa wasn't just wasting money, she was stealing it. And now, the debts were piling up. It was poetic, really. The man who told me I owed him everything was now the one begging me for help. I let him sweat for a few days. Let the silence stretch. Let the panic settle deep in his bones. Then, finally, when I was ready, I agreed to meet. He looked older. When I walked into the quiet, nearly empty restaurant where we had agreed to meet, I almost didn't recognize him. His once perfectly tailored suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. The weight of years of denial and bad decisions was finally crushing him. He didn't greet me right away. He just looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time. "You actually came," he said finally. I sat down across from him, crossing my arms. "Say what you need to say." He exhaled shakily, rubbing a hand over his face. "Lisa, I don't know what to do." I didn't respond. He swallowed. "The business is failing. Investors are backing out. We owe money, a lot of money. Rosa, she left me with nothing." His voice cracked. I need your help." I tilted my head. "You need my help?" He nodded, desperation flickering in his eyes. "Lisa, I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong person. I should have seen it sooner. But I can fix this. I just need you to come back. You still have the restaurants. You know how to run things. If we work together, we can save what's left." I let his words hang in the air, let him feel the weight of what he was asking. Then I smiled. And I laughed. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was pure amusement. Because for the first time in my life, I held all the power. And he knew it. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "You want me to come back? After everything?" I shook my head, still smiling. "Let me remind you of something, Dad. I tried to warn you. I told you Rosa was using you. I told you the business was in trouble. I told you to take control before it was too late." My smile faded. "And you ignored me." He swallowed hard. "Lisa, please." "No." The word hit the table like a gunshot. His breath caught. I sat back, folding my arms. "You stood by while Rosa treated me like I was nothing. You let her steal from me. You let her replace my children because she didn't think they were good enough. And now, you expect me to save you." I shook my head. "That's not happening." His shoulders sagged. "Lisa, I don't have anyone else." I stared at him for a long moment. Then, finally, I gave him the truth. "You never had me." The realization hit him hard. I saw it in his eyes. The moment he understood that he had lost, not just the business, not just the money, but me. Forever. I stood, smoothing down my blazer. "I'm starting something new. A brand that doesn't have your name on it. That doesn't come with your baggage." I smiled coldly. "And I'm going to make it bigger than anything you ever built." He looked up at me, helpless. "So that's it?" "That's it." I turned to leave, but just before I walked away, I paused. And without looking back, I said, "You deal with the consequences of your choices." Then I walked out. And this time, I never looked back. Update. Months later, I stood in front of my newest restaurant, watching the final touches go up. A new name. A new brand. Mine. I had done it. I had built something for myself. Something that no one could take from me. And as I stepped through the doors, the past finally fading behind me, I realized something. I wasn't just free. I had one. Update. Do I regret it? Not for a second. A lot of you asked if I regret taking things this far, if I feel guilty, if cutting my father off was too much. The short answer? No. The long answer? I always knew Rosa was stealing. What I didn't know was just how deep the damage went, that she had drained everything, that my father was hanging by a thread. I thought I was fighting over a vacation. Turns out, that cruise flipped our lives 360 degrees, and honestly, I'm glad it did. That being said, not everything is perfect. My kids miss their grandfather. And despite everything, I do feel bad for him. He lost everything, and for the first time, I wonder, Maybe he didn't deserve to lose everyone, too. I don't know if reconciliation is possible. I don't know if I want it. But maybe one day I'll find out. Until then, I'm just enjoying my new life, my new business, and my new freedom. And that Reddit is a win.